Hello everybody, it's Silvana. Welcome back to the channel. Um, so I had some thoughts and we missed a day of vlogging. So I thought I'd do a little bonus episode. Um, doesn't deal with camp, but definitely just some thoughts on my mind. So let's start with on Tuesday, July the 9th. Depending on scheduling, I am looking at the possibility, the very real possibility of having a live stream write-in. I have never gone live on YouTube. I have gone live on Twitch. So in the next day or so, I will be checking out YouTube Live to see how that works. Or since I already have my capture software set up for Twitch, if it would just be better and easier to stick with that setup. When I know for certain that there will be a live stream, what time that is and what platform that is, I will release that notification probably in Monday's video. So keep an eye out for that. My plan at this point is that we would do all 4 sets of the Pomodoro on the write-in. So that's 100 minutes all told worth of write-in. So with the 5-minute breaks, a 2-hour live stream. So that's announcement A. The other thing I wanted to kind of talk to you about, I was watching another YouTuber, and I don't want to get the channel name wrong, so let me look. Emily Bourne. And she has stuff about like insane person or crazy person writing a book or something. But she was talking about her novels. And she said something that kind of struck me. I don't know. I'll say what it was and where I'm going, and I want to open a discussion with you guys about this, is where I'm going with this. So she said she made her character walk by a place. Now that's an innocuous statement, and I'm not saying like she did something terrible or bad or anything like that. I like her. She's really energetic, makes me tired watching her, but you know, she seems like she's, you know, having a good time, and you know, so it's fun. But what caught me with that is I don't think of my book that way, of any of my novels that way. To me, how, I don't know how to say that. To me, when I tell my stories, they're almost like writing a history book. Now, I say that, and then we talked while we were watching. Oh, by the way, side note on that, the project that we got done writing, that we started in April's Camp NaNoWriMo, now has a name, a new working title. We're calling it Project Ghost. Because that at least is accurate, instead of what was my working title for it. So, as I was writing Project Ghost, we'd had some discussions about having to change things, or as I was writing the story, finding that something was a little more different than I originally thought that it would be. Like when I had the thing about what would be in what chapter halfway through the book, and then as I got to those chapters, some of those things never coalesced. And, or they came in a different manner. Um, and And that's true, but I never thought of that. I'm making my main character do X or Y or Z. Um, I feel like I write where the story leads, and part of that is based in history, and part of that's based in motion. And I know I'm making absolutely no sense. But if I was talking about my book, and I was saying the lead character walked to the library, I wouldn't say that I made my character go to the library. Or we'll start using names. I made Duvessa go to the library. Or I made Stefan build a model. I would say, oh, I was writing today the scene where Duvessa goes to the library, or where Stefan builds a model, or whatever's going on in that moment. Now, right now, we're doing the 50s rewrite. And again, I wouldn't say, I made him do X or her do Y. I wouldn't say I made Everett do this, or I made Jennifer do that. I would say, like today's work. What did you write today? Oh, I wrote the scene where Jennifer and Everett have, basically video sex. Because that's what I wrote today. So for those who write or have written, whether you're published or not, comment below and let me know. Do you feel that you drive the story, or do you feel that your characters are driving the story? When you thought the story was going to be one way and something else ends up happening, do you feel that you made that happen, or that came organically from the characters themselves? I don't want to make it seem like they're alive, but in a way, kind of. Because I've looked at and read a lot of interviews and stuff of like Stephen King about his writing process, and he talks a lot about his book premises very often start with a what if. Something happens and his mind says, well, what if instead of that, this happened? Or what if instead of this, that happened? And the ones I know a couple really off the real top of my head. Like, they lived in Orono, Maine, near a busy street, and they had a close call with one of the boys. I don't know if it was Joe or Owen. I used to remember which boy, but I can't now. About them getting out in the street, and I know it wasn't the little girl. I think her name is Naomi. I have to look at that, but I'm pretty sure the little girl, his daughter, she's not little anymore. You can tell I've been reading King for a very long time when I think of her as little girl. I think her name is Naomi. But they had a close call with either Owen or Joe getting out in the street, And he had the thought of, what if that had happened? And then, the boogeyman in his brain took that, and thus Pet Cemetery came to be. Or he tells the story much better than I will, about his trip out to get his motorcycle fixed. And the guy had a giant St. Bernard, which kind of acted like it was going to bite him. And the dude hit the dog to make it behave and told him that the dog didn't like him. And that's where the idea popped in his head of, what if when I got here, the repairman, the mechanic, hadn't been here, it had just been the dog. And thus Cujo was born. Um, he had the thought for The Shining, why they stayed at the Stanley Hotel in Colorado, because they were driving from Maine to LA for one of the movies, one of the early movies, Carrie or Christine, or, probably Carrie, because Shining's real early in his repertoire. And had a thing about what happens if you got snowed in there. And that's where The Shining came from. As they were driving across the United States and got into Iowa and Nebraska and saw how flat in the cornfields, he had the idea for Children of the Corn. It stopped in some, basically nowhere, one stop, like gas station type of town to get gas, and the what if monster knocked on his door. And then from there, he doesn't outline, he doesn't plot, he doesn't do any of that. He pantses. Or at best, I would say he headlights. He knows a little bit of the story ahead of him, and that's about as far as it goes. And what he thinks might happen is not always what happens. Again, with Cujo, he famously says that he expected the little boy Tad to live, and he didn't. And with The Shining, he expected Danny and Wendy to die, and again, they didn't. And he never in those statements says, I changed my mind. If you ever hear him, go look up on YouTube. If you can deal with listening to Stephen King talk for 2 hours, which obviously I can, at Infinitum, please, I'd love to go see a live event, by the way. That would be awesome. Because I know he's getting older, and I don't want to think that thought, but I do. He never says he changed his mind, that he decided it would be better if Tad died, or that Wendy and Danny lived. If you ever hear him tell these stories, his tone of voice very much makes it clear that that outcome is just as much a surprise to him as anybody reading the novel. He expected Tad to live, and Tad did not. He expected Wendy and Danny to die, and they didn't, because things changed somewhere in the book where that didn't happen. And so I've always read that as the characters driving the story, and not the author. But I know some authors, J.K. Rowling, because she's not my friend, I should be polite, call her whole name, or at least her whole pen name, has famously on her website and in interviews and stuff said multiple times that she had the very last line of the very last book written down as she was starting to write the very beginning of the very first book, and that she knew, for the most part, give or take a character dying here or not there, exactly what was going to happen across all 7 novels. And so to me, now it's her brain, it might be different for her, But to me, if you know the last line, that's kind of reads that you're directing the story, that you're making your character, you know what you want your character to do. So, I've gone on entirely too long. Again, comment below, let me know what you think, which way it goes. Do you drive the story? Does your character drive the story? Is it a little bit of both? Give me some examples of your own work or your favorite author that might do it one way or the other. As always, like, comment, and subscribe, and do all the do's below. I want to thank you all for watching, and I hope that you have a very nice day.